15 minutes. That's all it took for a black SUV to pull up outside the showroom. I watched through the glass doors as Grant Weston stepped out. He was wearing a charcoal suit and carrying a folder so thick it could have been a novel. Grant had been my business lawyer since I was 35 years old. He knew every secret, every document, every legal detail about Clark Automotive. He knew the truth about who really owned this place. The showroom went quiet when he walked in. I mean silent. The kind of silence where you can hear the air conditioning humming. Darren straightened up. Claudia's face changed colors. Grant walked right past the reception desk and came straight to me. He nodded respectfully, then turned to face my son and his wife. "Good morning," Grant said, his voice calm and professional. "I understand there's been some confusion about ownership and authority here at this dealership." Darren looked confused. "Who are you?" "Grant Weston, corporate counsel for Clark Automotive Holdings." He opened that thick folder and pulled out documents. "I'm here to clarify the legal structure of this business, since it appears Mr. Darren Clark and Mrs. Claudia Clark may have forgotten." Claudia crossed her arms. She was trying to look confident, but I could see her jaw clenching. "These documents," Grant continued, adjusting his glasses, "confirm that Mr. Harold Clark maintains 70% ownership of this dealership. As the principal owner, he retains all major decision-making authority. Mr. Darren Clark holds 20%, acquired through inheritance provisions in the original partnership agreement." He paused, letting that sink in. "Mrs. Claudia Clark," he said, turning to her directly, "holds 0% ownership. 0 interest in this business. You are employed here at the discretion of the majority owner." Darren opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "This is ridiculous," he finally said. "My dad gave me control of—" "No," Grant interrupted, not unkindly. "He didn't. Your father owns this business. He can revoke managerial privileges effective immediately for cause, which includes public disrespect toward company ownership, breach of fiduciary duty, and misrepresentation of authority to staff and clients." Grant looked at me. "Mr. Clark, would you like me to proceed with the revocation?" Every eye in that showroom was on me. I could see the staff trying to make sense of what they'd just heard. I could see Claudia's confidence cracking like thin ice in spring. I could see my son realizing he'd made a mistake that couldn't be unmade. I stepped forward. "Yes," I said. "Effective immediately. Darren takes a leave of absence. Claudia is not to be on these premises again. I'm assuming full operational control as of this moment." Darren's face went white. "You can't do this." "Actually," Grant said quietly, "he can. And he has." Grant handed me a pen and 2 documents. One was the revocation of Darren's authority. The other was a restraining order keeping Claudia off company property. I signed both without hesitation. The paper made a sound as I set the pen down. A sound that felt like a gavel hitting wood. "Pack your things," I told Darren. "Both of you need to leave. Now." Claudia stood frozen. Darren looked like someone had knocked the wind out of him. And that's when it truly hit them. They weren't in control anymore. They never had been. The man they tried to erase just took everything back. If this moment got your heart racing, you need to subscribe right now so you don't miss what happens next. Turn on your notifications because this story is far from over. Drop a comment and tell me how you'd handle this situation. Would you forgive them? Would you make them suffer? Share your thoughts and inspire thousands of people watching. Let's keep building this family of truth tellers. Don't go anywhere. The real reckoning is coming next. They didn't leave quietly. After Grant handed me the signed documents, Darren tried to argue. He said it was his business too. He said he'd built it with me. He said his name was on everything. I just looked at him. Not angry. Just tired. Your name is on what I let you put your name on, I said. Your authority came from my decision. And I just took it back. Claudia tried a different approach. She smiled at Grant. She tried to charm him, to make him see reason. She asked questions about loopholes, about legal challenges, about how this could possibly be enforceable. Grant didn't budge. He just stood there, folder in hand, like a stone wall. The documents are airtight, he told her. I wrote them myself 25 years ago. Your husband is the owner. You own nothing. That's the law. I watched Claudia's face as reality crashed down on her. This wasn't some small setback. This wasn't something her charm or manipulation could fix. She was finished. And she knew it. The staff started whispering. News travels fast in a workplace. Within minutes, everyone knew what had happened. The owner was back. The Clarks were out. I turned to Derek, the manager who'd greeted me like a stranger weeks before. I want everyone's loyalty transferred back to me, effective immediately, I said. Darren's authority is revoked. Claudia is terminated. Any decisions he made in the last 6 months that don't align with company values will be reviewed and potentially reversed. Derek nodded. He looked relieved, actually. Like he'd been waiting for an adult to take back control. Darren tried one more time. He came at me with words. He said I was being unfair. He said I was destroying his life. He said I didn't understand what it meant to have ambition. He said I was holding him back. I listened to all of it. When he was finished, I said, "Your mother would be ashamed of how you treated me. And that's something you're going to have to live with." That landed. I saw it in his eyes. The mention of Margaret. The reminder that someone who loved him unconditionally was gone, and in her absence, he'd chosen to become this. "Get out of my dealership," I said quietly. Claudia left first. She walked past me without a word, her perfect hair catching the fluorescent light one last time before she disappeared through the doors. Darren followed her, but slower. He kept looking back like he thought I might stop him. Like I might call him back and say I was joking. I didn't call him back. When the doors closed behind him, Grant turned to me. "That was the hardest thing I've ever seen a man do," he said. "How are you feeling?" "Like I just had a surgery," I told him. "Painful now, but necessary. And eventually, I'll heal." Grant packed up his papers. Before he left, he said, "Your son is going to regret this. That kind of pride, that kind of betrayal, it doesn't just disappear. He's going to come looking for forgiveness eventually." "Maybe," I said. "The question is," Grant continued, "will you be ready to give it?" That was a question I didn't have an answer for yet. As Grant left, I stood in the middle of my dealership. The same place I'd stood that morning when I felt like a ghost in my own life. But now everything was different. The power had shifted. The truth had spoken. And I realized something important. Justice wasn't about revenge. It was about truth finally being acknowledged. But the real test was just beginning. This is the moment you need to stay locked in. Subscribe now and turn on notifications because the next chapter will break your heart and heal it at the same time. Comment below and tell me your thoughts on Darren's actions. Do you think Harold was too harsh? Should he have handled it differently? Share your story of family betrayal in the comments. Your words matter. They inspire others. Let's build this community together. Don't miss what comes next. The weeks after were quiet in a way I hadn't experienced in a long time. I came back to the dealership every day. I relearned how to run it without Darren's presence constantly trying to undermine me. The staff was respectful again. They called me Mr. Clark. They asked for my opinion. It was like stepping back in time to when things made sense. But at night, in my house, the quiet was different. It was heavy. It was lonely. I'd sit in my garage and think about Darren as a boy. I'd remember teaching him to change a tire when he was 12. I'd remember him telling me he wanted to be just like me. I'd remember the pride in his voice when he said it. Somewhere along the way, that boy had died. And I didn't know exactly when it happened. 4 weeks after the confrontation, my phone rang. It was late. Around 9 at night. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. It was Darren. "Dad," he said, and his voice was different now. Smaller. Like he was a kid again. "Can we talk?" "We're talking," I said. "I mean in person. Please." There was something in that "please" that broke through my defenses a little. So I told him to come over. I sat on my porch while I waited, the same porch where Margaret and I used to sit on summer evenings and watch the sun go down. When Darren's car pulled up, he looked like he'd aged 10 years. His suit was wrinkled. His hair wasn't perfect anymore. He looked like a man who'd been through something hard. He sat down next to me on the porch steps. For a long time, neither of us said anything. We just sat there listening to the crickets. "I fired Claudia," he finally said. "About a week after everything happened. She tried to get me to sue you. Tried to get me to fight back. When I wouldn't do it, she left. I didn't respond. She took some money with her. Money I thought was mine. Turns out a lot of what she told me was lies. About the business, about you, about what she wanted from me." He ran his hand through his hair. "I've been working with a therapist," he continued. "She's helping me understand why I believed her instead of believing you. Why I chose to see you as an obstacle instead of the man who literally built the ground I was standing on." I could hear regret in his voice. Real regret. Not the kind someone performs. The kind that comes from actually understanding what you've done. "I know I can't undo what happened," Darren said. "I know I hurt you in a way that probably shouldn't be forgiven. But I'm asking anyway. Can we start over?" I looked at my son. Really looked at him. I saw the boy in there somewhere, underneath all the mistakes and the pride. I saw Margaret in his face, in the shape of his eyes. I saw someone who'd been lost and was finally trying to find his way home. "Forgiveness isn't something that happens in one conversation," I told him. "It takes time. But I'll tell you this, I never stopped being your father. Even when you made it clear you didn't want one anymore." Tears came to his eyes. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry." "I know," I said. We sat there in silence for a while longer. It wasn't comfortable yet. Comfort would take time. But it was honest. And honest was a start. Before Darren left that night, he asked if he could come back to work. Not as a manager. Not in charge. Just as someone trying to learn the business the right way, from the ground up. I told him yes. But I told him something else too. Something important. "Respect isn't given," I said. "It's earned. You're going to earn it back. Slowly. Every single day, you're going to earn it." He nodded. He understood. And as he drove away, I realized something. This wasn't the ending I expected. This was better. This was real. This was what healing actually looked like. Everyone watching this right now needs to subscribe and hit that notification bell. This story isn't just about revenge, it's about redemption and second chances. If you've ever been hurt by someone you love, if you've ever had to stand up for yourself, this is your moment to share. Comment below. Tell your story. Tell us if you've ever given someone a second chance after they hurt you deeply. Your story will inspire thousands of people watching right now. This community is built on truth and support. Don't go anywhere. We're heading to the final chapter, and it's going to shift everything. It's been 2 years now since that Tuesday morning when my son called me an old man who didn't belong. 2 years of slow, steady rebuilding. Darren came back to work. He started at the bottom, just like I did all those years ago with Eddie Pearson. He swept floors. He cleaned the bathrooms. He worked the service desk. He did the grunt work without complaining because he finally understood what his father had always known. You don't get to the top by starting there. The staff noticed. They started respecting him again. Not because he was the owner's son, but because he was putting in the work. Because he was humble. Because he was learning to value what I'd spent my whole life building instead of trying to tear it down and rebuild it in his image. Claudia disappeared about 8 months after everything fell apart. Someone told me she'd moved to another state. Started a new life with someone else. I didn't follow up on it. Didn't care enough to know the details. She was gone, and that was enough. The dealership is running better now than it has in years. I brought in new systems that respect the old ways but embrace the future too. It's the kind of balance Margaret always talked about. The kind I should have insisted on when Darren first started asking for change. I visit the dealership a few times a week now. I like to walk around and talk to people. I like to smell the oil in the service bay. I like to run my hand along the cars on the lot. These things remind me of who I am. Darren and I have lunch together most Sundays. We don't talk about what happened much anymore. We've moved past the anger and the explanation stage. Now we just talk about life. About business. About his hopes for the future. About what Margaret would think if she could see us now. Sometimes I wonder if she can. The real lesson I learned through all of this wasn't about legal power or proving who's in charge. It was about understanding that pride destroys families from the inside out. My pride made me stubborn. Darren's pride made him blind. Claudia's pride made her believe she could manipulate her way to happiness. None of us were right. We were all just broken people trying to build something that would make us feel like we mattered. But mattering isn't about ownership. It's about showing up. It's about doing the work. It's about treating people like they have value, even when they don't treat you the same way back. I'm 68 years old now. Still getting older every day, just like everyone else. I've got aches in places I didn't know could ache. I tire faster than I used to. My hair is grayer. My hands are shakier sometimes. But I've learned something that no young person can understand until they've lived long enough to see it. The legacy isn't the dealership. The legacy isn't the money or the business or the buildings with my name on them. The legacy is standing up for yourself when you're being disrespected. The legacy is refusing to let someone erase you. The legacy is also knowing when to forgive, even when forgiveness is hard. When Darren laughed with everyone else that day, it crushed me. But it also woke me up. It made me remember that I had value. I had power. I had the right to demand respect from my own family. And when I exercised that power, when I brought Grant and those documents and that lawyer's calm voice into that showroom, that wasn't just revenge. That was truth. That was standing on your own 2 feet and saying, I matter. I built this. And I won't be invisible. The dealership still has my name on it. But now Darren's name is underneath it. Not as the owner. As the apprentice. As the man learning the trade. As the son finally honoring his father's work. That's the victory I was looking for. Not to crush him. But to restore what was right. To remind him where he came from. To show him that some things matter more than ambition. I spent decades building something from nothing. I did it with my hands and my heart and my refusal to give up when things got hard. My son tried to take that from me. But you can't erase a man who knows his own worth. When they laughed at me that day, I said nothing. But the truth spoke louder than any word I could have said. And they never laughed at me again. This is where our story ends, but yours is just beginning. Subscribe to this channel right now and turn on your notifications so you never miss another story of family, betrayal, and redemption. These stories matter because they're real. They happen to people like you and me every single day. Comment below and tell us your story. Have you ever had to stand up to someone you loved? Did you forgive them? Did you walk away? Your comment could inspire thousands of people going through the same thing right now. This community is built on real stories from real people. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Tell them that their worth isn't determined by what anyone else thinks. Tell them that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Thank you for being part of this family. We'll see you in the next story.